All right, we're going to look at some amazing scripture twisting by Leighton Flowers. Amazing scripture twisting by Leighton Flowers. Let's take a look at this. He's talking about Romans 9:13 and he's calling it decalvinized. Romans 9:13 decalvinized. Well, today we want to de-semi-Pelagianize Romans 9:13 and take it away from Leighton Flowers because we're going to see that he's straight up twisting scripture at this point. Here's our text in Romans chapter 9, verses 6 through 13. He wants to look at verse 13. Jacob I loved, but Esau I hated. Of course, Jacob is the father of Israel. His name was changed to Israel. He was given a spiritual name, Israel, and the descendants of Esau became the Edomites, okay, who attacked and cursed Israel over and over again. The people of the descendants of Esau attacked and cursed Israel over and over again. And we're going to go through and see what this text actually has to say. And we are going to start probably, I think at verse 10 would be a good place to start. And not only so, but also when Rebekah had conceived children by one man, our forefather Isaac, though they were not yet born, and had done nothing, either good or bad. Notice that's the key, had done nothing, either good or bad, in order that God's purpose of election might continue, not because of works. Again, not because of works, but because of him who calls. She was told, the older will serve the younger, as it is written, Jacob I loved, but Esau I hated. Again, not according to anything they had done, not because of works. And yet, what is Leighton Flowers' conclusion going to be concerning Jacob I loved, but Esau I hated? Here's his conclusion. Hatred is the expression of God's wrath, divine wrath, for the Edomites, descendants of Esau, because, that's the key word, because they cursed Israel by attacking them. They cursed them, they attacked them, etc. So that's the reason why God hates Esau, or rather his descendants, the Edomites. But notice what Paul says. Though they were not yet born, the twins, Jacob and Esau, were not yet born, and had done nothing, either good or bad, in order that God's purpose of election might continue, not because of works, not because of doing anything good or bad, but because of him who calls. She was told, the older will serve the younger, as it is written, Jacob I love, but Esau I have hated. So Leighton Flowers wants to say, nope, it's because of something they had done bad, namely cursed Israel by attacking them. Total scripture twisting here by the neo-semi-Pelagian, Leighton Flowers, all to maintain and uphold his idea of the power of contrary choice, even in fallen man. Even in fallen man, he retains his power of contrary choice, what these people fallaciously define as human libertarian free will, which is not the way the Bible defines it. So notice John Calvin in his commentary. Moreover, by these words, when the children had not yet been born, this is John Calvin's commentary on Romans chapter 9, verses 10 through 13. When the children had not yet been born, nor had done anything good or evil, he shows that is, Paul shows, that God, in making a difference, could not have had any regard to works, for they were not yet done. That's pretty apparent by the text. Now they who argue on the other side, for example, semi-Pelagians like Leighton Flowers, and say that this is no reason why the election of God should not make a difference between men according to the merits of works, for God foresees who those are who by future works would be worthy or unworthy of his grace, are not more clear-sighted than Paul, but stumble at a principle in theology which ought to be well known to all Christians, namely that God can see nothing in the corrupt nature of men, such as was in Esau and Jacob, to induce him to manifest his favor. In other words, Jacob and Esau were both children of wrath. Both children of wrath. Jacob, child of wrath before he was converted, when he wrestled with God. That was his conversion, and God gave him a new name, a spiritual name, Israel, he who has wrestled with God and prevailed. Esau never had that wrestling with God. He never had that conversion experience. Jacob did. But before that, Esau and Jacob were both fallen sons of Adam, spiritual children of the wicked one, and there was nothing in either of them to induce God to manifest his favor to either of them. So why did God give his favor to Jacob versus Esau? In order that God's purpose of election might continue. God's choice, not because of works, but because of him who calls. That is God who calls. What shall we say then? The Apostle Paul knows what the objection is going to be to this. He's going to face objections from people like Leighton Flowers, a professing Christian Leighton Flowers, who's going to say, no, it had to be something in them. It had to be that the Edomites, it was because they cursed Israel by attacking them. It had to be something in their works that they did, even though he had said, had done nothing, no works, not because of works. Okay, Leighton Flowers doesn't want to accept that. What should we say then? Is there injustice on God's part? Why? Because he chooses the one over the other? By no means, for he says to Moses, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy. I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. In other words, it's my prerogative who I save, who I mercy, who I grace. They're all under my wrath. They all deserve nothing but death for their sin and for their sinfulness, their inherited sin from Adam. Being spiritual children of the wicked, they all deserve that. Both Jacob and Esau deserve that. But God chose God's purpose of election. That's what election means. God's purpose of his own choice to mercy one and not the other. And God doesn't have to mercy anybody. If he chooses to mercy anybody, it's because he chose to do it. Not because there was anything good or bad in them. Okay? In fact, there was only bad in them. There were only fallen sons of Adam. Okay? So it depends what? Not on human work or will or exertion, but on God who has mercy. Not on works, not according to anything they had done, but it depends on God who has mercy. Okay? And then he even goes on to give the example of Pharaoh. Again, individuals, Jacob and Esau. Now the individuals, Pharaoh, and he already talked about Moses and Pharaoh. For this very purpose I have raised you up, Pharaoh, that I might show my power in you, and that my name might be proclaimed in all the earth. So then he has mercy on whomever he wills, and he hardens whomever he wills. Again, Pharaoh and Moses, before Moses was converted, Pharaoh and Moses were in the same boat, fallen sons of Adam, spiritual children of the wicked one. God mercied Moses. He did not mercy Pharaoh. He judged Pharaoh. And he could have done so with Moses as well and been perfectly just in doing so, since they were both sinful, fallen sons of Adam, spiritual children of the wicked one. Okay, so that's why John Calvin again brings us back to people like Leighton Flowers stumble at a principle in theology, which is what's known as original sin. Original sin. Okay, that's where Leighton Flowers is stumbling right here, which ought to be well known to all Christians, namely that God can see nothing in the corrupt nature of man, such as was in Esau and Jacob before Jacob's conversion, to induce God to manifest his favor toward them. Whenever he says that neither of them then had done any good or evil, what he took as granted must be also added, that they were both children of Adam, by nature sinful and endued with no particle of righteousness. No particle of righteousness. So again, amazing scripture twisting from Leighton Flowers in Romans 9:13. This is pure eisegesis from Leighton Flowers' part. Eisegesis, reading into the text his own false presuppositions, rather than reading the text and the argument the Apostle Paul is making and taking out of the text what Paul is actually saying. He's reading into the text his own particular semi-Pelagian views. So anyway, I hope this is helpful. Very edifying to see this kind of nonsense being promulgated by the semi-Pelagians. They really reveal their terribly bad theology in this kind of nonsense here. Hope this helps. Post your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Soli Deo Gloria.